Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katie Brunel, and I work for the District Attorney's Office as a Community Outreach Coordinator. As a member of the White Ribbon Day Planning Committee, I would like to thank everybody that's here in attendance today, and we're so happy that you're here to be a part of this really important discussion. This month, we've been celebrating White Ribbon Day, which is an international movement where men take a stand to end violence against women and all gender-based violence. Our local Cape Cod campaign is a collaboration with the District Attorney's Office of the Cape and Islands, the Yarmouth Police Department, and Independence House. Before we jump into the panel discussion today, the Executive Director of Independence House, Lisetta Hurge Putnam, would like to share a few words about White Ribbon Day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisetta Hurge Putnam, and I'm the Executive Director of Independence House. And I am so thrilled to be here just to chat with you this morning about White Ribbon Day, and specifically the White Ribbon Day campaign. So welcome, it's March, and that's when we celebrate or recognize White Ribbon Day. And I feel so privileged to be able to partner with the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office, the Yarmouth Police Department. And while I feel privileged, it's really the Men's Action group at Independence House that's really spearheading this year's campaign. And I want to give them credit for that. So what is White Ribbon Day, and why are we even doing it anyway? So what it is, it's a global campaign of men and boys. They're coming together to really take a position to end violence against women. And this year's theme is Unite Men to End Gender Violence. And, we use terms a lot: gender-based violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. So I think it's important to give a definition. What exactly is gender-based violence? It's a general term that we use to describe violence that is rooted in exploiting unequal power relationships between genders. So that's a mouthful. What is that? What's an example of that? An example of that would be what we commonly call domestic violence or intimate partner violence. It could be elder abuse, sexual violence, stalking, trafficking. And once we put it in those terms, I think it becomes clear about, what exactly are we talking about when we talk about gender-based violence. So what does it mean for men to come together to end violence against women? There are, a lot of things that men can do. And while I'm not here to offer those solutions, I always like to make some suggestions based on what's in the literature. So according to Tony Porter, and if you don't know about Tony Porter, Google him. He has a website called A Call to Men, and I always want to attribute my quotes to him. And what he says on his website, research by the World Health Organization shows that men and boys who subscribe to rigid traditional notions of masculinity are more likely to report having used violence against an intimate partner. So what he says is that intimate partner violence is more often committed by men, and he's not the only one that says that. Research shows that. Therefore, they must be at the forefront in working for solutions. So men and women, men empower themselves when they work to prevent violence against women or end violence against women. And as women, we empower ourselves when we invite men in to do that work alongside us, as we've been doing for many years. So think about this. I leave you with this. Violence against women is a learned behavior. Men's violence is a result of the way many men learn to express their masculinity, and most individual acts of men's violence are an attempt to assert control over others. The result is that women are denied basic rights that most men enjoy: the right to safety in their own homes, the ability to go out at night, a job that is free of harassment. When a woman faces a threat of violence, it usually comes from a man she knows: her boyfriend, husband, father, employer. We live in a society in which words are often used to put women down. We're calling a girl or a woman a bitch, a freak, whore, baby, or dog is common. Such language sends a message that females are less than fully human. When we see women as inferior, it becomes easier to treat them with less respect, disregard their rights, and ignore their well-being. Pop culture perpetuates our ways of thinking and reinforces our gender behaviors. So this is not a moment of preaching, but more an invitation to examine your own attitudes and actions and think about how they may perpetuate sexism and violence, then work towards changing them. Don't be complacent because you feel you're different than men who feel they have a right to control women. Whether you like it or not, simply by being a man, you benefit from the safety that comes with male privilege. So that's one action that you can take if you're looking at this introduction today. And thank you for your participation and look forward to our continued work together over the years.
Thank you, Lisetta. I'm pleased to announce and introduce our panel of youth-involved volunteers who hold many roles in our schools and in our community. They're here today to share with you their own experiences and continue the discussion about what else we can do to work towards ending violence against women. We're fortunate to be joined today by Ross Jatkola, the head coach of the Barnstable High School football team, Henry St. Julien, the assistant principal at Falmouth High School, and Andre King, the history teacher at Sandwich Middle School. Moderating our panel today, we have Jonathan Thompson, motivational speaker and community figure. Jonathan, I'll turn it over to you to get us started with this great discussion.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well on this crazy, crazy day. I know it's raining outside, but you know what? That just means it's the day 2 of spring or day 3 of spring. So this is good. Everybody's alive. Everybody's growing. We're still moving forward. This is a good time. So I applaud you guys for stepping up. I want to say hello to Ross. Welcome. Thanks, man, for being here. I know about you in the community, and I love what you do. And always, you and I always seem to connect on some way, shape, or form when it comes to the youth and making things better in the community. Your family, love you. Andre King, how you doing, Andre? I've known you forever. That seems like we've been the same age forever, even though I'm older than you. But you're doing good things, man. How you doing? And of course,
well, JT, and it's good to be here. This is very important. So I'm encouraged to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And first time I'm meeting Mr. Henry St. Julien. He is assistant principal in Falmouth. I've been just around Falmouth a lot over the last couple of weeks. How you doing?
You were in Lawrence, right down the road from me. Didn't stop by. We could have met.
I could have been sitting next to you doing the meeting from there.
Absolutely. Next time.
Could have came over and had a steak and cheese. We could have talked about it. Next time up that way.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, and welcome everybody else that's watching from wherever you are. So I thank you and I applaud you for being part of this. And if this is your first time, men, gentlemen, young men, this is where everything starts. This is where everything becomes a point of you having control of your life and how you want to be perceived and how you want to represent yourself. So listen to me, listen to everybody on here. And please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate. All right. And I'll say this one thing also. If I step away from the camera, please continue, gentlemen, because I do have a slight emergency going on with my mother and stepfather. You know, they're healthy, but some outside stuff. So if I have to step away for a minute, just keep going. I'll be right back. All right. Now, one of the things I was thinking of as I was a kid, and I'll ask you guys right now, when you were younger, growing up, was there ever a time, and it could have been in school or maybe in your house or aunt, family, anybody, where you witnessed your first time seeing some kind of abuse, whether it's mental, whether it was physical, towards a woman? Anybody, please. It's a hard one. I'm gonna say the first time I've actually noticed anything like that was basically watching movies. Growing up watching movies, you saw if a woman spoke quickly or said something to, get out of here, don't touch me, and it would be a a smack in the mouth, and that was supposed to be okay. And she, oh, I'm sorry. And she's apologizing. That's what we kind of saw at first, coming up as kids. Now this is and these are supposed to be the cool movies. So a lot of the media, you know, put this out there that was okay to do, and the woman was supposed to accept it. That's not good. That's not accepted. And if my parents didn't say something to me when I'm watching these movies, you know, because we only had one TV. So everybody kind of watched the same thing. You know what I mean? Everybody watched the same thing. So you knew what the kids were watching, so it monitored easier. That's what I was first kind of taught about. You respect women. This is not what it's about. What about you guys? Anything
So
that you remember?
So my older cousin, when I was young in high school, I think my first time was, she was married. The reception was actually at our house, and within a year, she was divorced. And the talk with the family was that it was abusive. And right away, I had cousins and uncles saying, this shouldn't happen. This should not happen. But the problem that I had was it was hidden. You know, the first thing that my first experience, I'm a high school student. My cousin gets married and we don't see it. And that's a problem. But within a year, we know about it because she's no longer with this person. And the conversation, at least it brought up the conversation in the family, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And I'm blessed to have men in my family saying, no, this is not what we should do. But that's very personal for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I noticed that, and I'm watching you, and I just your whole demeanor just shifted. And I saw that, and I was like, okay, so you definitely, and I have some things too. So I saw the whole thing come on. Your body posture changed. Ross, anything?
I was when you said movies, that was actually the first thing that popped into my head. Because that's kind of our first experience and stuff like that, especially if you're in a household where you feel safe and you're not experiencing that every day. That media, you know, puts it in front of you, and it's kind of this, you know, Hollywood type thing, and you start thinking, does this really happen? Is this really happening behind closed doors? And if you're not seeing it firsthand, you know, that's kind of your introduction to gender violence. Like Henry said, I think, you know, you always have distant families and things like that where these issues happen, and it's usually behind closed doors, and sometimes they look like the happiest couple, and they portray their way, you know, the way they're living as a certain way, but you really don't know what's going on until everything hits the fan and there's a divorce or a breakup. So I think, yeah, like you said, movies and media was my first intro, and kind of like really trying to grasp, like, does this really happen? And lucky I had, you know, great leaders that taught me right from wrong, and we had those discussions as well.
Yeah, it's it is in the movies, and I'm sure we will go back to that about social media and all that stuff later. But that's definitely a big thing. Andre, what about you? Anything you've come across?
Just for me, you know, along with what Ross said, you know, what I can remember, I didn't remember anything physical happening for me, but I distinctly remember when we were having a conversation at a lunch table, and one of our friends, he mentioned that his parents were married, you know, and I just remember looking at him and the rest of us looking at him and, you know, being like, you don't come from a single parent family. Your parents are actually together, you know?
Right.
It just seemed odd, you know? And so now as an adult looking back, you know, this idea, you know, of, you know, my parents, you know, were divorced, and most of my friends' parents were divorced, you know, and so you go back and forth between mom and dad, and we moved here from New York, you know, so there was, you know, that was difficult, the separation, you know, but that whole, you know, you spend one vacation with this parent, the next vacation with that, summers are here, you know, to me, that was normal, you know, and so I just look back at myself, you know, this idea of a nuclear family, that really my parents' generation, that was the norm. And but I think for my generation, you know, there was a shift there, you know, definitely my grandparents' generation, you know, that two people, you know, that's just, you know, and fortunately, you know, through my parents and my grandparents, like we had those family meeting, you know, those family Thanksgivings and Christmases, you know, and you got tradition and the sense of heritage and all the things. But I just specifically remember, you know, my parents being divorced, obviously that's difficulty. But, you know, I remember when I went through that, I just looked around and it's like a lot of my friends, you know, it was like, this is just kind of normal. It's like, okay, you know, that doesn't make it any less challenging. You know, but the kind of, you know, you're not really, it's kind of almost expected that, you know, you're going to go, you know, that you just see things from a single parent way, you know, and I think that's kind of factors in when you talk about versus, you know, if you have two parents and you come from a, you know, 2-parent household and that's normal and that's your reality. I think that just enforces how that you can be successful in those type of relationships, those long-term relationships that are important for our society. And then how, you know, you just learn to treat and respect, you know, your family members and especially your spouse when there's disagreements, because obviously it's very challenging, you know, and, you know, it's great in the community that when we do these community things, but it's challenging to maintain that and to get your kids off. And, you know, many people do it successfully, and we just need those role models and those examples.
Right, Dre, that was exactly. And that's, so we got to think about when we grew up, it was all my friends, I used to seeing mom and dad both there. Go to the house, oh, your mother's there, your father's there. And that was normal to see that. But back in the day, and I have to say it like this so much, is if there were any problems, it stayed in the house. That's what it is. It stays in the house. Don't go outside talking about, telling everybody a bit, you know, this family's business going on outside. So it stayed in. What happens in the house stays in the house. And that's how we all grew up. That's just how it was. It didn't matter white or black, what you call it was your family business stayed in the house. So when you do that, we didn't realize like how much stress and pressure we were suppressing and keeping to ourselves and not letting anybody know that there was a problem going on at home. And I remember hearing, you know, my grandmother and back in the day say, oh, that's just men, honey. You know, that's just men just need to, they work hard. They just need to, you know, to blow off some steam. And that was accepted. So when you know, it was, I can't say it's accepted in a good way, but it was just kind of like the norm. Henry, do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand? Like that was like,
yeah. You know, I think sometimes when I'm thinking about this subject, we have to start thinking about what it is to be a man in our society. And I think to some, they say, well, a man handles things in the home. He's got control. He's going to take care of stuff. And I think it can go too far. I think it goes way too far. And we have to start thinking about what is a man and how does he conduct himself in a household? How does he conduct himself with his girlfriend? What does he conduct himself in any kind of situation? And I think that's the subject. I think we really need to say, this is a true man, a man that will protect and provide and be there. But this ownership, almost like sometimes I look at this, I'm like, do you own this woman? Is this your property that you're acting this way? So that discussion, what is a man needs to be an ongoing and reshaping that definition. I think that's
absolutely.
So
and JT too, I was gonna say, sometimes it's more verbal than it is physical.
Exactly.
To look out for. And I don't think you realize sometimes until it gets to the physical part of relationship that we got to see the verbal signs or the emotional signs that can be much more damaging at times. And noticing that as a young kid, like, oh, wait a minute, that didn't feel right, or that didn't sound right. Or, you know, why does he feel like he can talk to her like that? And then kind of like what you were saying, Henry, like now, you know, I remember, you know, reaching that age where I felt like I could finally speak up. Like I felt like, to me, what a man was who was going to speak up and defend a woman or someone who was being spoken to the wrong way, not feel the power to talk down to a woman. And I can still remember those times where I was kind of battling it emotionally inside and like, wait a minute, I've got to say something here. And it wasn't physical. I wasn't watching, you know, someone be struck or physically abused. It was just kind of that emotional, mental abuse over and over and over, and finally stepping up. And like you said, Henry, being a real man and saying, you know what, maybe you should step away, or speaking to someone, maybe you should, you know, look at this from a different lens, and why is he talking to you that way? Or just saying to the man, hey, don't talk to her like that, and intervene. And, you know, things might have gone on. They might have got home and handled it differently. Or, you know, there's some people I've had those conversations with are still together. But, you know, try to do our part to make sure that verbal abuse isn't accepted.
Well,
That's it.
I'm gonna say this. I don't know. I'm probably the old man of this thing. I have a daughter who's going to get married soon, and from the very beginning, I've said one time, get out. It's and that's me actually talking to this future son-in-law that I have. Is you know, you're here. You know, there's never excuse. There's never excuse to lay a hand on my daughter. And that's one time. That's you know, I'll reiterate that when she was a high school student, when she's in college, one time. And then I want you out, and I'll bring them out. You know, this is how we handle it. And I don't know how we need to, as men, we need to be able to talk to our younger generation, talk to people in front of us and say, you know, what is expected? What is acceptable? You know, when I see a couple and they start to stop hanging around with people, when they start to isolate themselves, when they start to break away, those are flashes. Those are things that I have to say, let me start talking to this young man and see what he's doing, because I never want to see a person isolated and not be trapped with any kind of relationship. So I got the one time rule. One time, done.
Yeah. And you said, and I have a daughter, so I'm not even at your point yet right now, but I have a son and daughter, and I watch, and this is conversations that we had with them when they were younger, before they started to date, on how they were to treat women, how they would treat men. You know, the same thing. You know, I have to talk to my daughter too. Same thing. Listen, you don't put your hands on a man, and you know, I don't care how mad he looks. Like, you come to us immediately. You know what I mean? Come. And I recall my son, I think, when my daughter was going on her first boyfriend, and I remember him going to have a little talk with him when they started dating, like immediately. And I remember my daughter was like, so what was that? She goes, oh no, Darian had to make sure that he explained to him that if you ever touch my sister, that you and I are going to have an issue. You talk to, he goes, I know she might make you mad. He said, but we don't do that. And that's not, and my daughter doing the same thing to my son when he started dating, you know, the girl. She's like, he doesn't ever hit you and you don't hit him. But this is because our conversation in the house. But I caught one of my daughter's boyfriends before, when she first started dating, and it was, her demeanor was changing. And I'm like, yeah, no, something's up. So I'm watching a little bit more, and I'm watching her posture, and I'm watching, you know, she's not, I'm like, that's the mental, and that's that verbal going on. And my wife picked up on it quick too. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like him. I don't like him anyways, because you're dating my daughter. Let's just get on the table. I don't like any guy. But any guy, I could tell, because you feel you're either and I'm talking to these kids too, you know, all these kids that are watching. Don't think that you got to be the man that's your girl now and you own her. You don't own her. Dude, a relationship is a partnership. So this is, you don't own anybody. If you're with somebody, that's a partnership. So you guys got to work together. So if she had friends before and she hung out, then, you know, you got to respect that, and it goes both ways. But I see that some of these guys getting protected and feel like they have to, and other dudes being in the ear. Dude, you're gonna let her talk to another dude. You're gonna let, she's friends. You know what I mean? Don't let other guys get in your ear and start pumping you up to make you do something that you normally wouldn't do. Don't let that happen. And that happens a lot. And that, because you know what happens? That guy pumps you up, and then he steps away and sit back and watches what happens.
Yeah.
That's not your friend. That's somebody wanting to see you get caught up in something. Don't ever do it. We touch nobody. Nobody owns anybody. A relationship is a partnership. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
JT, I like what you said too, is like, you know, I don't have a daughter, but it works the same way. You know, we don't want to, you know, you're not getting a pass because you're a female to hit a male in a relationship, right?
Absolutely.
And, we got to make sure we're having those discussions as well.
Right.
And I know we're here to talk about, you know, being men and doing it the right way and speaking up for women, but
Right.
that's also going to be a toxic relationship that if we are talking to young men, all right, and the women start acting a certain way, you need to remove yourself because then you're going to get yourself in a situation that's not going to be healthy.
Exactly.
So you got to see the signs from both sides so that
Right.
neither one of the partner gets hurt.
Exactly, Ross. Both sides. Fellas, you're not a punk if you walk away. You're not a punk. You're not a baby or anything like that. You're good. What you're doing is you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your reputation. You're protecting your livelihood. Because once you get labeled something, you can't take that back. I don't care. You know, once you get labeled, you know what I mean? That's a hard thing. And some people will want to push that button. They want you to go over because you can't take it back.
Mhm.
Once you do it, you can't take it back. It can be 20 years and all they're gonna be like, yeah, I remember JT, I remember you hit that girl back in middle school. Like, what? I didn't even go to school with you. But the rumors, people talk about it. That's a stigma that once it goes, you can't take it back. You don't want that. That can mess with you getting a scholarship, to mess with you getting a job. It's just your life. You're important. And it's respect. That's a big thing. It's respect for both, for all parties involved.
You lose your job right now. You lose your job. That comes out. That's done. It's
But you know,
done.
but you know what, Henry? Yeah, you should. But then I'm looking at sports and I see this dude and I'm like, what?
Yes.
So this is where the problem is. These kids see stuff. We see stuff. Doesn't matter our age. And Ross, you know, you got a lot. You got a room full of testosterone. I'll say, so if I don't put her all the way in the trunk, I'm okay? No, you don't do anything.
Yeah.
And you can still get your job. Go ahead.
It's crazy that we're still glorifying these men. And I think it's
Yes.
important for these kids. And we have these discussions. I have them in my household. I have them with the teams that I coach. You know, stop glorifying. Like the guy who just got the biggest contract in the NFL is someone who's been a multiple abuser. And we're glorifying. I'm watching all last night about glorifying this young man on SportsCenter because he just got signed as the #1 wide receiver in the NFL. And we seem to forget his past that this it wasn't a one-time thing. This was a multiple abuse situation where, you know, we talk about it in my house. I mean, EJ's 11 now. And, you know, our team, when we're in the weight room, they talk about these guys. I will literally say that, like, I don't talk about that guy. We don't like, they're not good people. We're not going to celebrate these people in front of me. And I think it's a shame that they just keep getting promoted and have these histories just because they can run fast and catch a ball. And football, as someone who's an advocate for the game of football and all the positives that the game can bring and what sports can bring, we keep getting shown in this light of this evilness because of these guys get glorified. And, you know, I'm good friends with our school resource officer, Officer Stample, who's an unbelievable human being. And I hang out in his office a lot. And I don't think we all realize how many domestic abuse calls there are almost daily. You know, so it's a societal problem. It's a real problem. And glorifying one or two guys in the NFL or things like that, it just makes it worse. You know, it makes it look acceptable. Like you said, you could lose your job, but these guys aren't. You know, they're getting re-signed. They're getting big contracts. You know, they took another guy who, you know, there was video evidence and picture evidence, and he took that whole stigma and went and got a UFC contract. And they tried to make money off of him that way, basically off of his domestic abuse case, which is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I try to talk about that as much as possible.
And Kaepernick did nothing violent. Shut down. So do you see like how our society has made these young men think? And this is a problem. That's a huge problem. It's what they want to do. And it's like, they're not, some people that are pushing this, and I have to say that for anybody on social media that, or whatever you do, look what you're pushing. And you might not say anything because it's not your kid. But when it's your kid, then it's a different story. And if it's your daughter that receives this, any kind of physical or mental abuse, now you want to do something.
Right.
No, this has to start in the very beginning. I'm looking at all those kids in that classroom right now. I'm looking at them. I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going through your head. I don't know what your home style is like, but if you're not discussing and know right off the bat, it is not acceptable to touch a female in any way, shape, or form, or to hit or destroy anybody that's any different gender because they're going through whatever they're going through, or they feel a certain way. That's not your job to be the coming through it and be the dictator and all that stuff. That's not your job. Because you know what's going to happen? And Chris Rock said this a long time ago, whatever you hate will be in your family. He said, you hate rappers, your daughter's coming home with 50 Cent and DMX at the same time. That's going to be your boyfriend. That hate is a strong thing, man. You got to think about positive things. What do you want out of your life? What do you want to be known as? What do you want to be around you? I can't push that enough. This is about protecting one another. This is about respect for people. Andre, what do you think, man? You're in a different school. Now, Andre, you're in Sandwich. I was up there speaking also. That's a whole nother area. Different climate, I'll say it like that.
Is this great contributions, Ross, in terms of, the professional culture and the celebrity culture, and, how those things, if you're successful in a field or athletics, that will justify everything. And I don't think we realize how those messages trickle down. For me, I was outstanding. I was very fortunate. I took a marriage and family class at Cape Cod Community College, and, so we looked at, domestic violence through the years, again, how it was. And just a quick aside, a lot of the reason in terms of, feminism and why we have no fault divorces and how divorces have really gone through the roof since there was that legislative change is because of the domestic violence that was swept under the rug in the good old days, 1950s, and those things don't happen in this community, well, and, in certain states where a woman was, the property of her husband, and those old laws stayed on the books into the mid 20th century. That was the impetus for the feminist movement. And then a part of the feminist movement was revising the marriage laws so that you had no fault divorces. And then it kind of swung to the other extreme. And so I learned that in that class. But another thing that was very important for me in the class in terms of relationships is we learned about a concept called limerence in relationship. And limerence is basically infatuation, like your sweetheart, and it's basically, it's a 2-year time frame. Sociologists have actually studied this. Like you meet somebody, this is the best person in the world. I'm going to spend the rest of my life, or, I'm on the right track and we have something and it's wonderful. Right. And so it's called limerence and it lasts for 2 years. Okay. And then sociologists, they look at after a relationship breaks up, how long does it take individuals to recover from the breakup? And it's 2 years of time that it takes you to recover, at least socially and emotionally, from that situation. And so I only bring that up is just in current terms of, I think we could maybe support people more in these troubled relationships. And then when relationships break up, so people don't feel so isolated and then galvanized by those two things at once. A breakup is difficult for everybody. I mean, you're hurting both sides. You're not well, and then when you throw the other fire, the social media stuff, if you're talking about divorces, many divorces are not pretty, people are at each other's throats. So there's all this, you're already hurt to start with because of the relationship. And then there's these other factors that just get thrown onto it that just accelerate the situation to the point where it can become violent. And so, the things that Ross talked about, it just in terms of just honestly, a guy with a guy, girl with a girl, when people are struggling, just to check in, and they're going to need a support system, in that time frame to get back on their feet and to be stable. Does that justify any sort of violence? Absolutely not. But for me, and you follow things and, you learn about the statistics. I think it's like every 24 seconds, a woman is physically abused by somebody that she knows 24 seconds. And then,
Crazy.
when situations, God forbid it's even worse, an assault or anything worse than that. And we always go back and we say, how did this happen? Or what could I have
Right.
done? When we see it in the extreme, an assault or even worse. And I just kind of go back to that. I just think, relationships, I mean, we're so, man was not meant to be alone. We need each other. We need to be in community. We need to have relationships, but just to kind of understand the framework. And I remember that 2 years of limerence, wonderful, glorious. And then people that are in relationships know it's a lot of work. What you see and on the social media, and kids are matriculating and going on to success, and you're in your career, and there's that stability. It's mountains. I mean, I'm a single, so it's me for just, I'm single. That's my life and I'm fine and happy, but it's a lot to take care of just me. But then you add those other layers for those stable and helpful relationships. It's a ton of actual work to maintain that. Just again, I just think, just being understanding, everybody, we want that prom date and it's good. And those things need to be in these relationships, but they're challenging to maintain and be healthy. That's a fact, A. And then when there's difficulty and they break up, I think you just need to, so your boys or whoever, just be there for them. Honestly, really, and it's not you're hurting and it's all right. And if we can support folks on both sides of that, then that will go a long way towards, I think that's when things can really escalate, is you're already down and you just feel like you just, and you get kicked. And, people that otherwise don't have this profile and wouldn't do things like this, are backed into a corner and, so that's for my, and Ross, in conclusion, in terms of the work that our law enforcement does and, just seeing the numbers, and it's that, I remember that same sociology teacher, she said to me, she she always tried to take somebody from law enforcement and convince them to go into education. And why? She says, when you're in education, by and large, you see people at their best. They're striving. They want to do this. They want to do that. They're trying to achieve things. When you're in law enforcement, you see people at their worst. They're back, they're down, the chips are down. They don't feel good about themselves. Prospects have deteriorated. They're at their worst. And that's when you kind of intervene in those type of situations, And so they do a lot in the community. But I just think for us, as people and as a community, just in these relationships, the social media looks glistening and that's, it looks wonderful. And you just think that it's, they're good, they're in the Poconos and it's wonderful. But when we see folks that are, just be real, if it's not, or if it's a breakup, support that person. And you need support too. And it's okay to ask for the support, to get yourself back on your feet. And
absolutely.
And going.
Okay. Henry, anything to add to that?
Oh man, lots of good stuff. Let's take that mask off. When we see the mask that social media kind of covers up, we need to get in people's lives. We need to get to young men's lives and find out what's going on. I'll just add to what, what Andre was saying. I'll just say this is oppression. We talk about fighting oppression. This is a form of oppression. And sometimes when you fight oppression, like racial oppression, you don't want to be labeled racist. I think it needs to be that level. You never want to be in that level, but I don't think our society sees it that way. This is oppression. And it should be looked at that. People should be looking down, going back to the athletes and stuff, that we should be definitely looking down and saying, you are an oppressor, and we want to make sure that we stop that kind of stuff. So I echo everything you guys say.
This is exactly, and I have to say, a lot of this focused on the athletes, because as an athlete, any sport, and it can be girls and guys both, you're taught to be tough. You're taught to stick up. Like, you got to be tough. Don't let that person get past you. What are you doing? And this is drill. So you're talking like Pop Warner, little kids, little hockey to bantams to midgets, all that stuff. Everything, you're taught to be tough. All right. But there's nothing after that. We don't ever say, all right, good job. Like, go shake his hand. But, you know, sometimes you used to do the slap, you know, slapping the hands at the end of the game. Good game, good game, good game. Do that out. But these kids are pumped up, and they're like, "You see me hit him? You see what I did?" And they're pumped, and we're pumped. You know what I mean? We're pumped too, but we're not thinking that this is going to transition over to a relationship or how they act towards other people. You know, now you hang with your team because that's your sports team, and so you kind of like get these kids that all hang together through school. So our manhood, you know, that spirit to start, we're like, this is us. We run the school, we run this, and we come through, and you don't realize how much that spills over into our relationship, our everyday attitudes. So it's all of our responsibility. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. I've never slowed down to think about it until, man, yep, I remember doing that. I remember being this way. And I didn't spill it over. I mean, and when Andre was talking about relationship, yeah, breakup is hard. It is hard, and it is crushing in your anger. And I'm like, and sometimes you think, well, maybe I've tried harder. If I call her more, maybe she just needs this, or maybe I'll bring her flowers to a school or to a job. Dude, you're on the borderline of harassment. Now you're doing something that you're outside of your box. That is a crime. Like you're sliding into a very sticky situation, you know. And some of you kids there, some of you guys that are watching, your guy, or some of you ladies, I don't know who's in the classes, but you gotta kind of reel them in, pull it back. So listen, you gotta just chill, man. Let's just go sit, let's go work out, let's just talk, let's just play some Madden. I don't know. Let's go for a walk, let's work out. Because they're approaching something that you never thought was even capable of doing. You're even capable of I would never do that. But you're right there. You don't think it's harassment because you might joke and say stuff all the time. No, you got to look at that person and see how they're reacting to it. And it's like when they see you coming, they're like, oh, here comes so-and-so. Because you know you say the same thing. You think it's cute. It's not. It's actually now you're on a level of harassment, and these little jokes you might say, or even a little smack or something like that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get put in that. Well, I always go to Ross next. I'm like, Ross is in the gym. You got these kids there, you know, and you see them. And if they, whatever anger, whatever things they're going through at home or school, girlfriend, I'm sure you can know when there's an emotional situation going on, especially with a boyfriend girlfriend situation, how it affects them.
Yeah, I think it's evident, you know, every day you got to pay attention to things like body language and the way kids are talking and things like that, because you got to notice when something's not right. And it's okay to grab a kid and put your arm around them and say, hey, what's going on? You know, I know, you know, I heard about this or that, and they'll open up to you. They want help. But
yes,
I think one thing that you said that stuck out was, you know, athletes walk around with this bravado. All right, we run the school. That was the quote you used, and things like that. And we have a confidence sometimes when we're athletes. Sometimes it's a front, but, you know, they have this confidence. And I think it's important to reach the athletes of this generation to use that confidence and use that leadership that they're naturally put in by being athletes to be advocates, you know, and step in and use that. Instead of being the guy who's making the jokes or making the statements or normalizing this kind of destructive behavior, be the guy to step in and say, hey, that's not cool. You know, that's not the way we do it around here, or step in and protect someone, because that's the role that I'm trying to use with my platform to reach those kids and try to create better men for the next generation, because they do have that stigma that you could use as a positive. And especially in the game of football, it's something that, you know, I like to talk about a lot, because as you said, we glorify violence. It's a game where you glorify violence, and what happens when there's a big hit, everyone cheers. And so you've got these young men that, okay, I make a big hit or I'm creating violence and everyone cheers. Okay, now that violent mentality might start to become normalized in other areas of his life. So making sure when you walk off the field, or, you know, frequently throughout the season, talking about, hey, it's okay to be violent between the lines, but we got to know how to be men when we walk outside the lines. Mm-hmm. And we know that we got to treat people the right way. And as, you know, tough. And when we talk about toughness, you said tough, you know, we're telling these kids to be tough. When I talk about toughness with my teams, I say one of the most mentally tough people are the people who step up when it's not easy to step up. It's not
Exactly.
easy to defend the person when it's not an easy situation. That's mentally tough. It's not
Right.
saying I'm not pushing through an injury or I'm inflicting pain on someone else. That doesn't make you tough. What
Right.
makes you tough is seeing a bad situation, right? And stepping
Right.
up, very, very, very difficult situation,
Right.
and saying, you know what, I'm standing up for this female. I'm standing up for this person that's in this relationship.
Mhm.
That's mental toughness. That's being a tough
Right.
guy. That's being a man to me.
Right.
And glorifying those behaviors as opposed to the other stuff.
Exactly. That's a real strength right there, a sign of strength. And like I said, and you guys are together as a team, you might need to help that player. Help
Yeah,
your,
you
your
have
fellows too.
built-in relationships right there.
Absolutely. Grab them aside, pull them aside so they don't take out your camera to film, take out your camera, stop filming something that's nonsense. Throw that down. That's the problem. You guys are becoming desensitized. A lot of these kids are, because they see so many things. And you got to realize on your social media, every time you like something or and share it, now that media knows what you like. So you're going to constantly, just like when you start looking at the new Jordans and the new kind of, sneakers, you're going to constantly see that ad pop up and it slides in, little clips of Jordan. Now it's all over you. Same thing. When you start looking at all that nonsense, they know that's what you like. So that's constantly going to be in your face. That way, that starts to desensitize you. You're like, oh, it's just another attitude. She probably did something anyways. She probably did something. Well, it's probably her fault anyways. You're accepting that. That's not cool. That's not right. Because if that was what would you do if it was somebody in your family? Take out the camera first. I'm gonna film. No, man, you stop it. You try to prevent it. You know when things are about to escalate. You can hear it. You see it. You know when things are gonna. You see when people starting to throw fuel on that fire. There's certain ones that do that. They like to do that. That's your friend. That's your friend. No. It's okay if you got a small circle, 1 or 2 people. I'd much rather have it that way and have low drama and people that respect each other and that I can count on. And that, if I'm out of pocket, they're gonna check me on it. If you're out of pocket, I'm gonna check you on it too.
Yeah.
Not just, that's Ross and Chanel. Don't know. No. Bring that back. Something's wrong, and that's it.
My best friends, I think, the handful that we have, the ones that I've stayed the most close to are the ones that were always felt comfortable checking me.
Yes.
When you need it. And we're able to speak up and say, dude, that's not cool. That's not right.
Yes.
Those are the ones at 36 years old that I'm still holding on to. And that's what made them a great man. And we learn from each other, from mistakes and things like that.
It is. It's hard. Once you find good friends, you younger kids right now, you think if you're friends with somebody for a couple of months, for a long time, 2 years. Now, when you get to that 20, 30 years and you get the same friends and you've already went through the pile, like, all right, these are my real friends. That's a beautiful thing. That's awesome when you can hold on to people like that. And again, check you. I can say something to you like, dude, what's going on with you, man? What's going on? It's okay to want to, you just need a hug. I just need to vent. Let's just go for a walk. Don't let the society fool you where you got to keep it all in and you have to handle it all. No, you don't. You don't have to handle it. That's not you being tough. That's not you being a man. That's not the definition of you being a man, by taking everything on your shoulders and all of a sudden you're unleashing on something nobody knows what it is. You need help. Ask for help. If something's not right, ask for it. You got all these teachers and all these counselors and principals and people just to release, You're absolutely available. What else? I know it's we got about 10 minutes left. We're getting into this. I want to hear from each one of you guys on what are you going to do to input this white ribbon, my vote. Now, the oath is right here. I'm going to say the oath again right now from this day. From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution, ending the violence against women and all gender-based violence. I say that right now. That's like saying it. I felt something before, but I'm saying it right now.
Yeah.
Tell me something you're going to do.
Okay. I'll just say mine. I'll just say that I see a lot of conflict between guys and girls, and just one that happened today. 2 guys were squaring each up, and a girl was involved. And my conversation before is different today. Today, the conversation was, why are you screwing up? Is she your property? Can she talk to anyone that she wanted to? And so that conversation starting to change. They're able to talk to the girls. Say, hey, did you feel what was going on here? Was you feeling like they own you? I think that conversation is becoming a part of my the things I'm going to be talking about more.
Right.
Because
Right.
they can't be that way. So we're having this circle and just saying, let's talk about this. So we're getting together tomorrow about the conflict and where they stand. So
Awesome.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
I think, I've already tried to start. I mean, I took the pledge, I think about 6 years ago. Me and Chanel went to a white ribbon ceremony, and listening to the stories, kind of like we are today, speaking on stuff,
Yeah.
was so powerful.
Right.
And I took the pledge then, and we took it again this year as a football team.
Yeah.
So we had 100 young men that I hope, some of them were listening. If we touched one of them, I think, it makes a difference. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm raising 3 young men in my household. So
Yeah, you are.
I make sure that those guys are loved up and
Yeah.
they know how to treat people right, and they know how to treat women the right way if that's what they choose to have relationships. And I think that's a small piece, but it's a good start. And
Absolutely. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Henry. Absolutely. Dre.
Yeah, for me, it's the just the education and being informed, having a resource like the Independence House and the tremendous work that they do.
Absolutely.
And just trying, I've known Chris for some years and just have the utmost respect. And I want the education. I want to volunteer. I want to participate as much and just to learn. So a lot of these things, when you hear the statistics, you're just not aware of. And so you say, how can I be a part of the solution? How can I contribute, and then just beyond that, it's the support piece, and the information piece. There's, our high school students, it's been some years, JT, Ross, since we graduated, but it seems like yesterday. And you can remember just going through, and people are telling you it's the time of your life, it's going to be the best, and you have to, and you feel like you need to do this, need to do that, all these benchmark prom and graduation. And, it's just twofold, like within that, it's just the theory can be like, this is an idealized part of your life. And then the rest is just like 9 to 5 drudgery. And you feel like you got, like you have to go for it, like now I have to, and you're not, again, we don't always prioritize or recognize, again, the hard work and the reality of these situations. So I think it's tough for sometimes the students. Oh, everything is ideal until you're 18. College is the best time of your life, and then good luck for the rest, rather than it's like the older generation, like, you've been in some relationships, you've had some, you kind of know how it's going to go, and you can kind of see where it is going and, what the reality is going to be versus what we kind of promote and what younger people, I think, sometimes internalize, that they got a YOLO. This is YOLO time,
Right.
And then you get involved and you get in situations that are very challenging and you're just not necessarily sure how to navigate them, but it's like, I really have to. And so just to, that they have the awareness and the support, I think majority of the great things that Ross is doing. And so that we can, because, there are going to be those characteristics, and I don't think it's the majority, but those individuals that are just constantly abused, so that they stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
And can be clearly identified, and when we look at our laws and how certain laws, it's like the community knows who these people are for a reason.
Right.
Okay. Because of their profile and that they're harming, vulnerable people, and everybody, we want it so that it's evident, and then we can deploy resources to make sure that these individuals do not have access or any opportunity, to abuse people. And so just more, you take folks that are in that middle, and you because of any convergence of circumstances, they fall down and they do things, that they otherwise, and you say, I know that wasn't in that person's profile. That wasn't who they were, how did we get here?
Right.
So just, like I said, but for the grace of God, there go I need the information. I need the support,
Right.
if,
That's good.
I go through a breakup, I'm gonna be needing help, but then as well, that the young people, they get the understanding. You don't have to rush to get old,
Right.
It's not all about the high school and the college and that's the glory days and the rest of your life is drudgery. No, and these things that you're going through, they're kind of difficult to navigate, and you might not be prom king, and that's okay, and you might not meet your high school sweetheart, when you're 18, and that's fine too. Okay.
Right.
But just understand how to really navigate these, to be able to see a healthy relationship, to identify it, and then know the amount of work that's going to go into establish and maintain it, so that you can be one of those success stories that we see. When you come back, your kids go to the school. I know I'm going over, I'm sorry, but your kids are going to, you went to a school, you met that person, you stayed together. Now your kids are going to the school and you're a part of the solution, because you had the understanding and you were willing to do the work that it takes. It's a lot of work. You were willing to do the work that it takes, to establish something and then to maintain it, and we're just so proud of you as a community. And then, then you go back and you help the next person, so
Awesome.
I just think.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to give a big shout out also to Mr. Marsh's class and Mr. Johnson's class. So you guys right now, I want to give yourselves a big round of applause for sitting there. And I'm looking at you guys. I can see you. You're in there. And I hope that, yes, I see the wave. Exactly. See? And I want you to take that oath with me. You guys are saying, you guys are listening. And again, remember, from this day forward, you promise to be part of the solution in ending violence against women and all gender-based violence. That's what I want you guys to take. That's what I want you guys to leave here with. And everything else we said is you're going to think before you speak. And remember, bruises go away. The mental abuse is just as bad, and it stays there. So think about how you want to be. Think about how you want to be treated and what you want to be known as and what you do. Help each other. You guys are all in this together.
Hey, JT, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, I see you somewhere.
I came in late.
Yeah.
Rep Kip Diggs, how are you?
What's up, Kip?
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
I took that pledge at the police station in Yarmouth with Chief Frederickson, and bottom line is we need to treat people like you want to be treated yourself.
Absolutely.
And you walk that line in respecting others, because there's nothing like not being afraid to just say hello to anybody, even if you don't know them. If you say hello to them, you can get a new friend,
Right.
And honestly, if you could make someone else's day just by just saying hello to someone is always a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, man.
Being kind is just, we were taught how to be, being kind is easy. Being evil is taught,
Right.
You're not, that just doesn't come natural. It's just coming natural is being able to say, hey, how are you? Putting a smile on your face, or if there's a spot where you're not feeling well yourself, then you need to be lifted up. Then, there's people that you go to that will lift you up. But, don't, you can only control what you can control, and you be the boss of yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's all I have to say.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for swinging it like that. And Katie, thank you so much for having me part of this. I want to thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Big shout out to my panel, Big Round, Ross, Henry, Andre,
So-
thank you guys.
Thank you.
So just to conclude our panel today, so appreciate everybody joining today. We hope that you make this a continuing conversation in your communities and on your teams and in your school. Please know that Independence House is our local domestic violence and sexual assault support agency. They provide services to survivors of all kinds of violence, and they do have a 24-hour hotline that we will pop in the chat. Remember that traditionally it takes a survivor of domestic violence 7 times of leaving that relationship before they truly leave. That's the average statistic. And so if you know a friend or a loved one that is isolated, or that you believe is in one of these situations, be mindful not to give up on them, and be mindful to stay connected to them. That's critical. And don't hesitate to reach out to a trusted adult, your school resource officers, or the Independence House if you think that you know somebody that could use that extra love and support, and be there for them. We so appreciate the value in you being here today. I wanted to express my gratitude to our panelists, our moderator. You guys were wonderful and we so appreciate you.
You're
The
welcome.
White Ribbon Day Planning Committee, Bob, Don, Chris, Annie, Donna, and Sergey. And tonight there is a men's action group event at the Cultural Center in South Yarmouth. If you're feeling invigorated and you want to continue this conversation tonight, that's happening at 6 p.m. and all are welcome. Please feel free to stay posted and reach out to the men's action group at Independence House if you want to be a part of their ongoing events relating to preventing violence.
I didn't get a white ribbon early, but I got something I'm gonna put right there. So you guys, it's an old receipt, but you know what? It still means the same thing. I'm still sticking up for it.
You're very creative. Thank you all and all my best.
All right, thanks guys.